I haven't the slightest idea how to do this YouTube video, but I just want to let you know that what I have to share is so incredibly important that it's mind-boggling. And when I shared it with my son, he said that I had to share it with the world. So here I am. I'm not a techie, but I'm going to share this with you. And it's my hope, it's my prayer that even if I can just affect one person's life with this information, then I've done my job. First of all, I need to let you know, my name is Shulamit Lazarus. I am a personal transformation specialist, an EFT master, an imagery therapist, and so much more. But this is not what this is about. You can look up my website, shulamitlazarus.com. That's fine. But this is not what this is about. What this is about is something that is so ground-shaking, paradigm-shaking, that it would seem to be a miracle. I want you to watch my hand as I am talking. Now, about, I'm going to say 7 years ago. I hope this is recording. About 7 years ago, I developed a tremor in my left hand. I noticed that when I held my cell phone, that it wasn't able to be still for very long. I remember one day reading a poem of mine at an open mic, and my hand was shaking so badly holding my paper that I had to ask somebody in the audience, please hold this paper for me. That shaking had continued, and I started noticing it in my right hand. When I would go to the cursor would fly all over the place, and I wasn't able to control my hand. When I was drawing with my coloring pencils recently, which I've just started to explore, having had a background in art, I wasn't able to control the pressure of my hand. It was all very sad for me. It was very demoralizing for me. I had to deal with the fact that I was losing the abilities to do what I wanted with my body. I do energy work for people as part of what I do. And within a few minutes of my hands being on somebody's body, my hand would start to shake. I always apologized for that, but it never bothered anybody. And when I held their hands, I would say, my hand has a mind of its own. And it never bothered anybody, but I felt like I needed to ask for forgiveness for that tremble. I tried to control the tremble, but I couldn't control the tremble. So, several years ago, there are a few stories here I want to share. Several years ago, I had a client who, on a phone session, told me that she was never right since she was taken off Ativan. She had a depression in her. It was either Xanax or Ativan. I can't remember. It was some medication that she had been on for a very, very long time that she was addicted to because of it. And she did the withdrawal of it, and she never was right since. And I thought to myself, because I am as much a scientist as I am an energy worker, a consciousness explorer, I have a background in nursing, a background in psychotherapy, a background in coaching, that if all time is now, as they say, I should be able to go back in time and contact that moment as if it was now, and then tap with her, doing EFT, which you can look up on your own or look up on my site, and clear that experience from her. And it was successful. I tested it afterwards, and it turned out that the depression was gone. Subsequent to that, somebody was sent to me with migraine headaches. And it was a psychotherapist that sent the person. And we cleared the migraine that she had in my waiting room very, very quickly with tapping. And then there were issues that came out that had to do with addiction and anger at her family and so on. And I wanted to address the anger. We happened to be in a phone session. And she wasn't able to contact the emotion. And EFT does not work when you don't have any charge whatsoever, because the whole idea of tapping is that we bring a charge in order to clear the charge. And then we're released from the experience. And EFT tapping is in itself an astounding discovery, modality that I use consistently in my practice and have helped tremendous amounts of issues for people, as well as my own issues, having come from a difficult childhood, an abuse background, etc., etc. Anyway, the thing is that I thought to myself, what if we're able to contact the energetic pattern of that medication, or have the body push it aside? Then the charge would come up. So that's exactly what I did. I said whatever sentences I needed to say. I'm an empath. And I'm not your conventional empath. I'm an empath that picks up the frequencies of people's thoughts. I don't pick up their emotions. I don't go around feeling miserable. That happens very infrequently, that I feel somebody's actual emotions. But what I feel is a feedback in my own energy field that that's a charge for them. So I can feel when their thoughts change, which is great because I can then help them find the core of the issue that they're dealing with without talking about it a lot. And even when they don't know what it is, I can say certain sentences and then I can feel the feedback in myself that knows exactly where we need to go. So I did that with her, and we were able to move the medication aside, and her charge and her anger started coming up, and then we were able to start clearing the issue, which we did good work on. So years go by, and I am now experiencing this tremor in both hands. And what ends up happening is that I have to have my fillings removed because they have a cavity. Now, I am chemically sensitive, both because of undiagnosed celiac that I just was diagnosed just several years ago from childhood, that created malabsorption and so on and so forth, and something called MTHFR, which is an enzyme deficiency that some people have, probably more than we know, that doesn't allow us to methylate, if that's too complicated, you can look it up, but to change a certain B vitamin in such a form that we can actually use it. And so what ends up happening is that B vitamin becomes a poison to our system, and then our liver can't detox because we don't detox easily. So I have to go to a special dentist. So I went to a special dentist who deals with these things holistically, and he, gave me glutathione and vitamin C and all these different things, gave me an injection which numbed my mouth and did what he had to do. And then I noticed when I came home, I was fine. But the next day, I started experiencing fatigue. And there's a difference between tired and fatigue. And so I wasn't really able to do much. And then the day after that, the fatigue got worse. So I was trying to figure out what it is that might have done what might have created the fatigue. And what happened was that I thought maybe it was the glutathione. I thought maybe my liver couldn't detoxify it. And so I said to him, let's not use the glutathione. But what I started realizing was that I was also on some other products. Not that the company is bad, it's a good company, but I am energetically sensitive to so much. I actually do best with energy medicine because I'm so incredibly sensitive to energies. That I stopped all of their products as well because I started noticing that I was causing anxiety. And I started noticing certain things with the dental products. I had been put on certain homeopathic drops, not realizing that I potentially was doing approving on them. So if there's any homeopaths out there, you know what I'm talking about. But as a homeopath was able to neutralize both of those experiences very, very quickly, within a day, and remove them from my life, and said, okay, this is what I want. I don't want any substances at all. Let's just do the filling, and I'm going to take chlorella, which I normally was taking anyway, to help clear toxins, and activated charcoal if I need to, but those are the things that work for me when I'm around chemicals, and I'm just going to do that. Went to the dentist and got my injection, which didn't quite work to numb, so I needed it doubly. He did another injection. We didn't add anything to the system except rinse out with water, and I went home. Again, the fatigue started the day after. At that point, I started wondering if it was the composite that was used. Now hang in there, I know that this feels like a long story, but when you finish at the end, you'll see why. You had to listen to the whole thing. So at that point, I thought it was the composite. Now, I have the ability, if I tap on myself and think of something, to get the same feedback because my energy field will change when I think about whatever that substance is. So when I tapped on the composite, thinking about the composite, and if I don't look straight at you, please forgive because I don't know how to do this angle thing with the iPad, but going back to my story, so I started tapping on the composite and I got no feedback. I started tapping on the composite and got no feedback. And what happened was then I thought in the morning, as I said, things are delivered to me. While I'm sleeping, my mind works on things creatively, and in the morning it's delivered to me. And what happened was that what came to me is, well, what about the injection? And so I started framing the question to my consciousness in such a way that it's like, maybe it's the stuff in the injection that has created the fatigue. And I got an immediate feedback. Now, let me just explain that a feedback with tapping is not unusually somebody will sigh or yawn. And yawning is an expression of releasing stuck energy. So what happened was I immediately started yawning. And I have been doing Qigong religiously now for, I'm going to say, about 20 odd years. And Soaring Crane Qigong has 5 routines, and one of the routines is standing after the 5 routines. I'm just feeling the chi, allowing it to move and allowing it to clear blockages. And to the extent that there is a stuckness, that is the extent of the violence of the movement that happens in the body. And I had experienced that throughout the years. So my body was pretty clear. And if anything was stuck, my eyelids would flutter. I happened to be on the bed at this point, and my legs were actually crossed over my body, almost like in a yoga twist position. And I was just lying there and I was tapping, focusing on what it is that he put in the injection. And my body started to lurch. I mean, if anybody videoed it, it would have looked like a seizure. And I just was amazed at the amount of movement that was happening. My eyelids were fluttering, my body was lurching, I was twitching and pitching, and there was all this stuck energy. As I allowed that to move through my system, and when I say tapping, EFT practitioners, EFT tappers will know that there is tapping points in these different parts that we use for 99.99% of all issues. I mean, I haven't had to go to a longer algorithm than that. So tappers will understand that. However, I've gotten to the point where I internally tap, so I'm able to move energy just with my mind, and just tapping on the side of my hand. So I do all my tapping on the side of my hand. I never go to the other points. Very infrequently, anyway. So I was tapping on the side of my hand, saying, even though maybe it's what he put in the injection, and my body was pitching all over the place. And I realized that that's what the issue was. So I gave that about an hour's worth, I can't really even tell you, of tapping, just allowing the energy to move through. And I noticed that I was still yawning, but the fatigue had come down, I'm going to say 70%. Can't remember now because it was about a week or two ago. But what ended up happening for me is I kept yawning and yawning and yawning. Now it's going into 2 hours and it's continuing, and I'm saying to myself, how can a chemical still be there? After all of this process that I've gone through, it's still lingering on. What is that? And so what ended up happening is I remembered somebody saying something to me many years ago when they were doing energetic healing on me, saying that the LSD I took when I was younger was still in my field. Now, I should say that my prompting towards consciousness work started extremely young. It showed up when I was very, very young. 14 years old, basically. If anybody is around my age, you know that there was an experimental movement towards, and an opening of the mind movement towards psychedelics. And LSD was one of the first. And so I had a leading already towards being an artist and a creative. And I saw a picture of acid art, art done on LSD. And what immediately came into me, they were trying to stop us from doing LSD. So they put these advertisements on TV. This is art on LSD. And the first thing that happened to me is, the minute I move out, I'm going to drop acid. That was the first thing that went into my mind. So Spirit was talking loud and clear, like, this is the direction you're going in. You are going into being a consciousness explorer at a level now that I realize I never even knew was possible. So what ended up happening is that I didn't trip that many times. I got major pieces of psychological information at 15. I moved out when I was 15 by the permission of the state because my mother was emotionally ill, and so I was an emancipated minor by the encouragement and permission of the state, and I've been on my own since I'm 15. So the first thing I did was do LSD. And I got a very important piece of information about boundaries, which I couldn't understand until I was 40 years old. So anyway, that was kind of useless, but it must have opened up a door or showed me a door. I don't really know. In any event, what happened was that phrase came back to me, and I thought to myself, well, what if the energetic pattern, and being a homeopath, I understand that energetic patterns are what we're working with. It's not the actual substance of a product, but or a substance in matter form as much as the energetic pattern of that in matter. What if that substance is, the energetic pattern is still in my field? Excuse me if I fumble a little bit. So I thought, well, what if I tap on the exact thing that he used? So I first contacted my dentist, who's all about understanding energy and is really, really wonderful. I feel totally blessed I have him in my life. And he sent me a text. It's called Septicane. And also tap on this and this and this. Now, the composite, as I said, had no feedback. But the Septicane had very strong feedback. And so I kept working on the Septicane at the chemical level, not yet at the energetic level. And then, again, my body responded intensely. And then I said, well, wait a minute, what is Septicane made out of? Maybe that's the issue. So I then Googled what Septicane is made out of, and it's made out of articaine and epinephrine. I tapped with my consciousness pointing to the epinephrine, and there was no feedback, which kind of makes sense because we have epinephrine in our bodies, so it's resonant with us. And then I tapped on the articaine, and again, yawning and twitching and yawning and twitching. And it seemed to not stop. I couldn't find the end, which typically I do. Like if I tap on caffeine or something like that, if I've had chocolate, it gets to a point where it's not affecting me anymore. But it didn't stop. And I thought to myself, well, what if the energetic pattern is there? So I started tapping on the energetic pattern of articaine. And I kept yawning, and my body kept moving and yawning and twitching and yawning and twitching, and then the twitching started calming down, and then the yawning started calming down, but it was still there. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. It's already interesting, right? But now here's where it really gets interesting, at least for me, with the implications of what happened, is that the tremor in my left hand was gone. Now remember that I was tapping on an energetic pattern. The tremor in my right hand was gone. I was able to go to the cursor with it not squiggling all over the place, which is exactly what would happen when I went for the cursor. And I was able to draw little tiny circles with my coloring pencil. I can't tell you what that did for me, to have the ability to hold something without my left hand shaking. And if you'll notice, I have been taping this whole time with something in my left hand. Must be, I'm looking at 233 now. The other one was 9, and the first one was 13. And have not had a shake in my hand. Now, having said that, okay, let's get to the implications here. I did not consciously know what Septicane was made out of. I did not consciously know what articaine was. However, something inside me knew everything. And I was able, with my consciousness, to access an energetic pattern that had been put into me that chemically was no longer there. And access something at the level of which it went so deep as to remove a tremor that I had for several years. I have been holding this the whole time for a reason, and see that my hand has been still. Now, how many people live with tremors? And how many people live with disease, which I understand at the level of homeopathy and energetic healing is an energetic disturbance. However, this experience for me also proved something about our level of existence that science has yet to confirm. And that is that all energetic patterns are in our energy fields, accessible. All knowledge as energetic patterns is in our energy fields, accessible, because we are all one energy field. There is no separation. There is only apparent separation. The implications of what happened to me are groundbreaking. And my hope is that information that I'm sharing is going to get out to everybody. Because once we start realizing what's really going on, that we are all one energy field, that all information that ever was is accessible to us, not on some airy-fairy level, but on some very substantial level. I did not know what arcane was. I still don't know what arcane is. I have not yet tapped on Novocaine, nor looked into what Novocaine is. And when I say look into, it's just so that my consciousness can have that word, because that word accesses an energy pattern in my field. And I'm going to say in my field, I'm going to say in the field. The implication of this is so groundbreaking because it also means that everything that we have ever taken into our system, every chemical, everything we've inhaled, every resentment, every anger, every betrayal, every loss, every experience we've ever had is still there as an energetic pattern. The Native Americans talk about how we don't write songs, we don't create songs. You know, my husband is a songwriter, and one of the songs that he wrote is a ballad. And it has to do with God. And he said he felt that he channeled that song. Well, the Native Americans believe that songs don't appear to us. They never disappeared. They just got lower and lower and lower. And because we couldn't hear them anymore, we thought they were gone. But actually that we don't write songs, we catch them. So what happened to me has such incredible implications. It has implications on intellectual property. And when we say that something is ours, our idea, how do we know that's true? Getting back to what happened to me, you'll see that my hand has not tremored. Now, I have in the past, for 13 years, been in the art field, using fixative, using chemicals. We didn't even put gloves on. Inhaling things. 2 packs of Marlboros a day when I was 15 years old. Thank God I stopped when I was 20. So many chemicals that I have been exposed to, that we're all being exposed to, that we don't realize are affecting us. But this experience of being able to focus on something that I didn't even know anything about means that we have the ability to use our consciousness to clear experiences from us, which we already know with EFT. I helped clear their abuses, clear the pain that stops them from being all that they can be, and watch them with such joy start to fly. I can't tell you how it feels to see people become free, and experienced it myself. However, to this degree, I have never experienced nor thought this was possible. To access something that I didn't even know anything about, and be able to remove something from my system that already started affecting me years ago. I can't even remember how many years ago it actually really started. I keep trying to think about it. It might actually have been 8 years ago by now. And what they call essential tremor, and how we accept things from the medical system just because they say it's so. And how we accept their diagnoses because they say it's so. This turns everything on its head. I hope that you are as excited about the implications of what happened to me and how it can affect your life, how it can make you go into your life and ask, what is it that I have been accepting that I don't need to accept anymore? You know, when my husband puts his arm around me, I feel his hand tremor. Today I said, what are you putting on your face? What is that shaving cream you're putting on your face? I have to say I have tears in my eyes because I realize how many people are suffering. And this piece of information is so important. So please write, ask any questions that you have. I'm not a scientist. However, questions need to be brought up about what happened to me. I'm going to continue to explore. I'm going to try and find the ingredients that are in fixatives, that are in spray paints. I will tell you where I am right now is that I hold this still, but I do feel a sensation that is going down my arm as if it wants to tremor. And I am probably in need of some food at this point. And so it wouldn't be surprising, since I've been holding this for such a long time, if there was some kind of tremor. But as you can see, it's pretty amazingly still. So I have more work to do. I have more tapping to do. As I told you, I tap on the side of my hand. I don't tap like other EFT practitioners do when I work on my own stuff. I don't feel it's needed. And our energy field also is in the tips of our fingers in terms of the meridians. And EFT is a meridian tapping process. Just happens to be that EFT has a certain algorithm that I have refined. And I have more work to do to clear this, and we'll continue working on it and sharing with you as I learned what's going on so that it can better your life, so that you can start exploring and questioning and sharing with me the experiments that you've done, because we are one field. There is only one field. There is only one heart. There is only one breath. And we are privileged to have that moving through us as life, as possibility, as love, as joy, as connection. This is the most incredible evidence that there is no separation, that there is no such thing as time, which I have already shared with you, that I have moved into the past with somebody and accessed that in the present. That we are caught by these self-limiting beliefs that we have been taught since we're children, and it's time to question them. It's tremendously exciting to think about what's possible with our consciousness. So I will keep you updated with what's going on. And I look forward to hearing from you too. And if you're interested to learn more about my background for any reason, you can find it on my website. This has not been about trying to get you to go to my website. I don't care about that one bit. I care about you. I care about people not suffering. I care about possibility. And I care about helping people everywhere to become free. Mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. And this experience, I hope, will be an inspiration for you all that watch this. And of course, a continual inspiration for me to know that anything is possible. I send you all love and blessings. Om Shanti.